This is the 9th generation iPad that is designed to give you exactly what you need and nothing more, so that what you need doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. But does it succeed? Welcome to my tech gear. Let's find out. So let's get the design of this out of the way, shall we? At the end of the day, let's face it, it looks old. The iPad has been the same shape as this for roughly the last 5 years. Big forehead, big chin, big bezels. It's just starting to show its age. It's just not very sexy, especially compared to some of the later, more expensive iPads like the Air and the Pro models. Still, that is the price you pay for a more budget-focused iPad. Having said that, those bezels on either side does make it easier to hold in the horizontal if you're trying to play games and things like that. Personally, I don't mind it, it's just starting to show its age. So spec-wise, we are looking at a 10.2 inch screen, giving you a 2160 by 1620 resolution screen, which is giving you a 264 pixels per inch screen. Now that is the same pixels per inch as the more expensive iPad Air, albeit in a slightly smaller screen. Screen brightness here, we are looking at a 500 nit panel. Now that doesn't sound like much compared against the 1000 nit panel of the iPad Pro models, but if you compare it against the MacBook Air, that only has a 400 nit panel. In real terms, it means you get a good picture that is clear and with vibrant colors. There are some limitations to the screen though. The screen here isn't laminated, so you will notice a slight gap between the screen and the glass on top of it. Unless you're using this for pro drawing and design, you're not really going to notice that though. There are some great features here though too. So the iPad has True Tone technology, so that will adjust the color temperature of the screen depending on the ambient light. Again, that is something that you find on the more expensive iPads as well. It will also support the 1st generation Apple Pencil. It won't support the 2nd generation one, which is okay actually, because the 1st generation version is cheaper. It's $99. However, you can also use it with plenty of other third-party pencils, which are a lot cheaper, such as this one here, that works fine with this Apple iPad, and this one costs about $20. So you don't have to buy Apple accessories all the time. The cameras here are where we see some of the biggest changes compared to the previous generations of the iPad. So the 9th gen iPad now has FaceTime HD camera. Now this is the same camera as you will see on the more expensive iPad Airs or Pros. However, it is missing a few of the bells and whistles like depth sensing. Aside from that though, you are getting a 12 megapixel front facing camera. It was only a 1.2 megapixel camera on previous generations. It also has a fantastic wide field of view of 122 degrees. So if you're on Skype calls or Zoom calls with family or friends, it means you can pretty much fit everybody in. I've happily had this on a couch or in front of a couch with a family of 4 and everybody fits in the picture. That front-facing camera also has center stage. As you walk around the room, if you're on a Skype call, that camera is going to follow you around the room, which means you're never going to go out of shot on a Zoom or a Skype call pretty much ever again. Once you've used it, you'll wonder how you ever did without it. And the rear camera is a fairly standard 8 megapixel affair with an f2.4 aperture. To be honest though, with an iPad, I think it's the front-facing camera that you're going to be using a lot more. Sound-wise, Apple says that the iPad has stereo speakers. Well, I guess it does have 2 speakers, however they're on one side, so it's not really stereo in my book. However, the iPad does have a trick up its sleeve because it has a 3.5mm jack for your headphones. So if you want proper stereo, plug in a pair of headphones. There are not many tablets or even phones these days that are having this, so it's a great feature to see and great to see it on a more budget device as well, which is good because the speakers really are a bit mediocre. Battery life on this is really good as well. It has 10 hours of battery life on a single charge. Now that is easily going to last you 10 hours. The battery life on this seems to last forever, far better than say Android tablets that I've used in the past. The iPad also supports 20-watt charging, and the charger is supplied in the box, which is a rarity these days. Charging though is via a Lightning port at the bottom of the iPad rather than a USB-C connection than you see on the more expensive Air and Pro models. So that is a little disappointing, and it will charge to full in about 2 hours and 45 minutes. There are more features on this as well. It doesn't have Face ID, but it does have Touch ID via the bottom at the base of the screen, which has been on iPads for a good number of years. So some might find it a little disappointing not to have Face ID. Again, I probably don't mind it because this is a budget device. Powering the iPad is the A13 Bionic chipset, that is the same chip that was in the iPhone 11 and the 11 Pro, so you are getting a chipset that is a couple of years old. Having said that though, games run smooth and fast. Play any modern games like Call of Duty Mobile and you will not notice any lack of performance on this. And the screen is really bright and clear to play with as well. Multitasking on this is fine, but it's not great because it is only a 10-inch screen. If you're doing simple multitasking though, like writing emails, taking notes, that kind of thing, then it's more than adequate. The fact that you can even do this happily on a budget device is awesome. And running on the iPad is iPadOS 15. This is the same operating system as you will find on the iPad Pro. It's not all a bed of roses though. You can't do multi-user accounts on an iPad. You just can't do it on this iPad or any iPad for that matter, because that's really annoying if you want to have multiple users on, say, a family shared iPad. It's even more frustrating because Apple do actually let you do it, because you can have multiple accounts on an iPad if you're a school through Apple's Shared iPad for Education program. That feature allows multiple students to share an iPad. However, for commercial use, Apple just don't let you do it. You can have multiple accounts on an Android tablet, on a PC, or even a Mac. So not having it on an iPad is really annoying. I do hope that they change their mind, and as the Mac and the iPad operating systems get closer and closer, it's something that we will see in hopefully the near future. Price-wise, we are looking at $329 for the 64 gig model. Now that is twice the storage of the previous generation iPad, which only had 32. 64 I think is the bare minimum. I would have preferred 128. If you do want more storage, then you do have to up the price. There is a 256 gig model and that will set you back $479 US. So you're paying an extra $150 for an extra 192 gig of storage. Considering you can go and buy a 256 gig micro SD card off Amazon for about 30 bucks, it is annoying that Apple don't allow expandable storage on this. So if you are going to use the iPad for storing lots of videos and lots of games, then I do suggest the bigger model will be worth it. For most people though, the 64 gig model is going to be enough. So how does this compare to the other iPad models? Well, the closest comparison would be the iPad Air. The 64 gig model of the iPad Air is $599 US, and the 256 gig model of the iPad Air is $749. So the 64 gig iPad Air is almost twice the price of the 64 gig iPad 9th gen. And for what? So you do get a nicer design, you get a better screen, you get USB-C, you get a newer chipset. So if the value of all of that is worth upgrading, then get the iPad Air. But that is a big price difference. So should you buy it? Well, iPads used to cost a fortune, and actually they still do, but they don't have to, and this is proof of that. Apple's latest 9th generation iPad represents amazing value for money as the entry level or the SE model iPad. You do sacrifice some things though to keep to that lower price point. The speakers aren't as great, you are still using that lightning port and it's not the most modern design. But the biggest wins for me are this: that front facing 12 megapixel camera is awesome. It has fantastic battery life and just getting an iPad for such a low price. This isn't Apple's best-selling iPad for no reason. Now, I am not an Apple fanboy by any shape or form. I actually haven't owned an Apple product before today. But I have to say that the Apple ecosystem and the range of software available for it makes it really hard to beat. If you're after a tablet that's going to let you play games, surf the web, watch Netflix, and even do some light multitasking, then the iPad 9th Gen is definitely for you. I will place purchase links to it in the description down below so you can go check it out for yourself. If, however, you would prefer a more full laptop experience but at a cheap price, then be sure to check out my video up here on some of the best Chromebooks you can buy right now. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and share it. Consider subscribing if you're not. And as always, see you in the next one.